I don't want to get too hung up on semantics and what I think what you're asking about is the default, because we give parents, under the regime of the bill, we would give parents information, and then we would say the state of California stores your samples forever, and it allows researchers to do tests, and these tests help save lives. Do you want to opt out of that? So they would have to check that to opt out. But of course, an opt-out, opt-in, there's only two options, so it's a binary switch either way you cut it. The idea of just not telling parents anything is what is most alarming to me.
And I don't necessarily disagree that parents at some point should understand this is happening. I don't think we need them to opt in. As far as the whole idea of this blood being very particular to you in DNA, maybe I've watched too much Law and Order, but don't we leave our DNA everywhere? I mean...
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, there are definite.
I'm an attorney, not a doctor, so I don't know.
No, and yes, we do leave like I'm sure there's smudges in my sweat on this pen, but I'm not selling my pen to a researcher to do whatever they want on my DNA. So yeah, we leave our DNA places, but I mean, I don't see researchers walking up and down the street to collect hairs that fall on the ground, but maybe if it's so important to them to have such a big sample size, then maybe that's the society they want.
I just wanted to make sure, though, that I understood the amount of stuff they have about us, right? I think we talked, and I don't know if I don't think I can support this bill. I think that the work that is being done is so critical, and I'm worried about, I know there is a newborn screening test pamphlet that's given to parents. I don't remember myself with my children. It's been quite a few years, but I don't remember the exact process. But the critical work that is done, I think, and the fact that California is at the leading edge of that critical work is something that I can't ignore. I did like where Ms. Burke was going with maybe a possibility of removing your child's name at that point from the data, the initial data, but then I understand why that would be problematic as well for the future references. I think I commend you for trying to solve a problem that I think you're worried about in the future especially. I'm just not sure if this is, the opt-in, opt-out is really a problem for me, so I'm not going to be able to support it. I would say, though, too, in the presentation, I just have to, I might have missed the whole presentation about Latinos and leukemia, but it sounded a little bizarre to me, so we may want to redo how we present that information.
I agree.
I think we're all alive and kicking pretty well right now. If we didn't know that our leukemia came from the Native American side. But I commend you. If this doesn't get through and you want to work on it, I'm excited to learn more. Like I said, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I do appreciate the work that they do. I'm an attorney. I'm trying to understand the legal ramifications and understand the practical, how we get to being the foremost in California of being able to be at the leading edge, the cutting edge of research, and our universities are at the top research universities, and utilizing this data in a way that saves countless lives in the future. I just can't, I can't at this time support the bill. Sure.
And I will just say that, I respect that. I think there's a lot of good done in the state of California, but what is the harm of letting parents know that good is being done? I mean, this is, in fact, the most effective advertising is to disclose to parents the wonderful work that is done and to let them make their decision. If you take that argument to its logical conclusion that a lot of good is done, you could justify just about anything. And that's where I made the hypothetical about putting a roadblock at the entrance of every freeway and saying we want to take a sample from every senior citizen and we're gonna do experiments on their senior citizens' blood. There would be an outcry. I mean, there would be the line of people opposing such a bill like that would be around the block. But we're doing this with children, and they're the voiceless. They can't speak up. So.
Assemblymember Gatto, for clarification purposes, can you state your position on the proposed committee amendments?
Yes, we are taking all of the amendments, including a sunset, which would be a five-year period to see if this works and to see its effect on the program, and we think that would be a lot of good. And I thank you and your committee for working so hard on those amendments.
Thank you, Assemblymember Gatto. And I just want to clarify that last point. So if your bill passes with the amendments that you've accepted for 5 years, only for the experimentation, you would have an opt-in provision.
Correct.
And then, as a matter of course, when that 5-year sunset ends, it'll go back to what it is today, which is opt-out.
Correct.
So if during that 5-year period there's some precipitous drop in participation or damage done to sample sizes and it hurts experimentation, it'll end.
That's our understanding, yeah, sunset.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to put you in the queue, please, Assemblymember Thurman. We had Assemblymember Wood, Assemblymember Lackey, and then Assemblymember Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have a couple questions, so if it's okay if I can proceed through that. Okay, thanks very much. First of all, you keep, and this is just for information, and I think for the general public as well, because you talk about blood being stored. I think the reality is these are blood spots on cards. So if I'm not mistaken, these are not full-blown blood samples that are, or are they?
They are spots, but it is whole blood that was put in.
It is whole blood, but it's not. We don't have vials of blood being stored in California.
Right. It's,
Correct.
It's
they're
it's
spots.
dry.
Yeah.
Vampires are safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, no, and I think that and I'm just trying to.
Sure.
That people understand.
The only thing I would say, I mean, when you're
Yeah.
dealing with DNA, which is a microscope, I mean, it doesn't matter if there's a vial or a little bit. It's DNA.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So my question is a couple of things, and and it kind of focuses around the potential for breaches. So you have the identifier stored in one area. You have the name stored in a separate area. These are separated. Now, are these internet accessible in any way?
No, absolutely not. That's part of the security procedure, is that the server is not accessible to the internet.
So the concept of hacking, from a perspective of, I think of hackers as accessing data on the internet. So physically, it sounds like in order to actually hack this data, they're going to have to breach the security where the servers are, or some link to the servers. It's not It's not accessible through the World Wide Web. Is that a fair characterization?
That is fair, but I think even if it was physically taken, I think it's more important to note that it's under a very strong encryption standard. So anybody who actually accessed the hard drive or the machine itself wouldn't be able to do anything with it.
Okay, I just wanted to understand. Unlike data breaches that around credit cards and things like that, how would you characterize the difference between, say, American Express or Visa or whatever, if they get hacked?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Can you draw a correlation? Are they similar mechanisms? Maybe that's not the right question for you. Maybe that's a question for Mr. Gatto.
Sure. So I would. We talked with a lot of people in the long saga of this bill, and it's actually my understanding that there is no one size fits all. So for example, there might be some researchers who get the blood, they reduce it to DNA, which is I almost said zeros and ones, but it's really 4-letter digits, and they might have 5 researchers working on it. There might be another team that has 20, and they might upload part of that genome onto the internet. I mean, there's as many different researchers as access this will have different programs, and people who have researched hacks and crimes, they know that there's no one size fits all. There might be one hacker who targets email. There might be another hacker who targets credit cards. For example, the target hack involved people putting little tiny things at the place where you swiped your cards. The Home Depot hack was over the internet, and so you have something very crude and something very advanced. It's the same thing with this research. There's a million different ways that it's used. There's a million different companies, there's hundreds of different companies involved, and there's different systems. And so you're only as good as your weakest link. That's the point that that's been drilled in my head as chair of privacy this year. And there could be a lot of different ways that this information could be breached.
And then final question. You talked about the samples being sold to. So can you describe that a little bit? I mean, are you saying that the state of California is making money on this?
No, I don't think California is trying to profit from the sale of blood, but they are selling it. It was explained to me that the state just covers its costs. But this is a cost to run a department and personnel and everything like that. But in all fairness to them, it's not a profit-making venture, but they are selling it. I mean, this is selling blood for money. I mean, they're sold. I mean, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So Member Lackey, then Thurman, and then I'm mindful, I did want to encourage a robust dialogue and debate here, and I thank the members for participating in that. I'm also mindful of our interested members of the public who've been on their feet for some time now. So there'll be more opportunity after we hear from members of the public for more committee question and debate, if that's what you wish. So we'll go with some Member Lackey, and then Thurman, and then we'll go to the members of the public.
Thank you. I'll be quick. It's my understanding that pregnant women are given information about newborn screening and research about how to opt out on 2 different occasions. Once during the first prenatal appointment and once at the hospital for the birth. Okay, and it seems to me that they can opt out anytime they want. Do we have any evidence that women who wanted to opt out were not informed?
Yes, so we've received well over 1,000 emails. I forget the last count. It was about 1,361, something like that. There was not one family who was aware of this. Not one. I have 2 daughters. One is 5, one is 2. You start with the lack of information. It's hard to trace back how little people know. But nobody, how many people before I stood here today knew that the state of California had this bank with the blood of every child born in the last 30 years? How many people knew that those samples were then given out to researchers to do research on? There's not been a single parent who has come to us who has said that they are aware of this. Number 2, yes, the ideal way that the system works is it's given at the place of prenatal care, but there's women who don't have prenatal care. There's a lot of women in the state who don't get prenatal care. And it's a very emotional process going through a birth. And, I wish I could say that more people knew about this program, but the reality is that almost nobody did. And it's also on page 13 of a 14-page form. And last time anybody went that deep into things in this generation, it's just not done. Thank you. Thanks.
Assemblymember Thurmond.
Actually, Mr. Gatto, I agree with you. This is confusing to me now. One second I think I can support it. One second I think, well, I can't. And if I can, it's because of this. I don't want to do anything that would discourage the screening itself. I'd be really concerned about that if that was the outcome. And I'm not clear. I'm fuzzy. I know I was fuzzy when both of my daughters were born, right? Here comes some person saying, we're going to stick your kid's foot, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And I'm just saying, just let me go home with a healthy baby, right? And I'm guessing that most parents are in that place where even if they say yes, they're just like, just get me out of here with the healthy baby. And so, I want us to do this in a way where we don't create more confusion that prevents us from getting data that can save lives, potentially the life of the young person who was just born. I trust your instincts to protect. So when you talk about protecting against companies that want to get our blood, I'm like, okay, that's a problem. Right? That's a problem.
Sure.
But then I'm like, what is the problem that we're really protecting against? Meaning, has there been, I'd like to get back to, has there been a harm caused that led us to, we need to do this? I don't want to just get hyped up, because right now I'm feeling hyped up. They want my blood. I don't want it. But what is the essential problem that has led to this concern that we need to protect against?
So civil libertarians, Newsweek did a cover story on this about a year ago, and they talked about a number of scenarios that are from the real world that could actually happen. If DNA is breached, if DNA is goes out to the general public, there are a number of genes, and the numbers grow every day, that scientists and the media in shorthand call propensity genes. So somebody might have the propensity for alcoholism. Somebody might have the propensity for Alzheimer's disease. And the scenario that a number of these civil libertarians have pointed out, and these constitutionalists, is if Ronald Reagan was running for office right now, and someone got a hold of his blood, and they did a test and they found out that he had a propensity for Alzheimer's, would he have gotten elected? Would he have gotten elected? If one of our children is going for a job interview 30 years down the line, and somebody finds out that they have a propensity for alcoholism, they might have never had a drink in their life. They might have totally overcome that propensity, which is in the genes. Might they not get a job? And so, this is profound stuff we're talking about. And I've never been one for scare tactics. I'm the sheriff of privacy. I try to calm people down. And in committee when they talk about these nightmare scenarios. But what I've learned in the last year is that these scenarios are real. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And this is DNA. I can't say that enough. This is the stuff of life. It's what makes you unique. It's what makes your children unique. And if someone gets that, if it falls in the wrong hands, the level of mischief is profound.
So it's a potential for harm if there's
Sure.
a breach and someone is able to determine a predictive gene or something about you that could later be used against
Sure.
you in the future.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Members of the public, thank you for your patience. These are witnesses in opposition. We've already had witnesses state their substantive cases for about 3 minutes each, so we're asking that. Oh. Okay. Excuse me. We have witnesses state their concerns. So now this is opposition. That was concerns? May have felt like opposition, but it was concerns. Two witnesses for 3 minutes each, and then we'll go to the mic. Please proceed when you're ready.